Welcome to Mental Health, the Crisis in Our Time. My name is Ann Bergen, and as a former educator, I've made it my mission to keep the focus on mental health and what we as a community need to do to address the issues. Mental health crisis, as we know, is dramatically impacting life in America and actually around the world. I have just been aware of so many of my former students who have been choosing to ease pain with addictive substances. A number of them have ended their own lives because the pain of living became too much. We know now that eating disorders are plaguing our young people, severe anxiety, depression. These issues are all skyrocketing. But it's really interesting. What's interesting to me is many researchers have started looking at mental health through a different lens. They're looking at those people that, even if they've had trying experiences in their lives, have managed to end up leading very happy and fulfilled lives. And one of the things that they found, and the research is very, very consistent about this, is that it isn't being wealthy, it isn't being famous, it isn't having, big lips filled with filler and, plastic surgery. That's not making people happy at all. What they're finding is that when people find a cause bigger than themselves, when they find a way to use their gifts and talents to make a difference in the world, that those are the people who ultimately end up the happiest. So I have decided to interview just a couple of young people that have dedicated their lives to a cause bigger than themselves, have found some joy in doing something that's going to make a difference in the world. And my guest today, Elizabeth Hagy, I welcome you. She is, I'm going to start off by saying this before we learn a little bit more about you. She is a recipient of the Gold Star. That's what it is in Girl Scouts. Is that what it's called?
I am a candidate for the Gold Award.
Oh, you're a candidate for the Gold Award,
Yes.
Not the Gold Star. That's, good, Ann. That's great. Candidate for
Yes.
that. Okay, so you are, and it's an honor that, which I know you're going to attain, but very few actually do, because it's really a lot of work, isn't it? It's a lot of work. Anyway, so before we start, before I hear specifically about your project, I want to take a step back, and I want to talk about your journey into Girl Scouts, because before this interview started, I was sharing my experience in Girl Scouts, and it wasn't a good one, because that was many, many years ago, and I think it's changed. Can you tell us a little about how your journey began with Girl Scouts, and tell us about that's leading you to today?
So about 13, maybe 14 years ago, I joined a Girl Scout troop in Pensacola, Florida, my hometown. It started as just my mom wanted me to meet other girls my age, and my troop leader, her name was Dawn, she really just loved Girl Scouts, and we went camping as a troop, we did all sorts of badges, and one thing she always focused on was the girls having a huge role in the troop. And so from the age that I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, I was on the road counting money for cookie sales and holding a poster, trying to get people to come over, talking to people.
What an experience you had. That really?
I hated it at the time.
Yeah.
She would have to kick me out on that curb to hold the sign and go,
Were you just
cookies?
because you were
Because I was cripplingly shy.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So shy.
Yes.
The social anxiety was real.
Yes.
I didn't want to get up in front of the class. I wanted to disappear behind a group, and she forced me out into the limelight to talk to people and to find things that mattered to me. And that's a big thing about Girl Scouts, actually, is the finding what matters to you. We have these things called journeys. And the journey that I did was all about justice in our community, and specifically law. And that's what led to my Gold Award.
Yeah. So but it just shifting back, because
Sure.
I think one thing that it's important for people to hear, especially young people listening to this, that even if you right now in your life you're quiet or shy or whatever, I was just like you, crippling shy, but there are ways to work through it, and it doesn't mean that you will be that way forever, but by joining organizations like this, okay, that's good. I want to get that out, because I think it's very important. I wish someone had said that to me, when I was growing up.
And I should clarify that I know at home and around my friends, I was very passionate, I mean, my mother would say, "You're shy?" No.
Yeah, right.
I'm so sassy at home, right?
Yes.
But in certain situations, trying to conquer the fear of how people are going to perceive me in a different situation. That's Girl Scouts really helped me with that.
That is very good. So, all right. So now let's home in now on your particular project, because your friend who was on not long ago was so excited about your project. She was telling me about her project, and I said, I've got to interview Elizabeth. So anyway, will you tell us about your project?
Yes. So it's called Second Edition, which is a play on words because it's all about literacy and prison literacy specifically. And I love to say that because when people hear the word prison and I'm a young girl, they're like, you want to be involved in prisons? And this just goes back to Girl Scouts conquering a fear. I have worked with multiple prisons, multiple prison officials. I have been inside multiple prisons, and it sounds as scary as you would think.
It is scary.
It is as scary as you think. Mostly because you're just so aware that you're being watched, and there's so many rules and there's so many regulations, and it's just such a charged environment.
Yeah.
But when you go and you can just start talking about books and stories, and that is such a great unifier. And education.
I didn't realize that I didn't realize there's so much around literacy. I mean, because I'm a former reading specialist, and when I hear people talk about reading, come on, talk to me.
Yes.
Keep going,
So Representative Priscilla Souza, who is in the Mass State, worked with me and helped me gain access, and we're currently doing a financial literacy course at the women's prison.
Wow. Now, which women's prison is it?
The one in Foxborough.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's like Bay State.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So what does that entail? Like, so tell us about this project. So you go into the prison, and then, of course, all the doors close behind you when you go in, and it is scary. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so tell us what happens when, this financial literacy one, what does it look like?
So it's talking to women who maybe were never taught that in school, and specifically about how to rebuild credit, because you say credit, and even for just a young person like me, you talk about how you're supposed to build credit. Where is this coming from? Is it just a credit card? How do I actually get a credit card? How am I supposed to?
How did you learn all this, just by the way? I still don't know all this stuff. You're talking, where did you get your background in this?
So Girl Scouts, I went to it was like a leadership breakfast for women in the Boston area, and I met a representative from P&G Banks, and we got to talking, and she just loved my project, and I loved her, and so she's leading this class, and I'm just listening and learning from her because I'm just as lost at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy smoke.
Yeah.
So you go in there and how often do you do a class? Is it like?
As I can arrange them. As you can imagine, it's really difficult to arrange these things.
Of course it is, yeah.
And oftentimes I'm not actually allowed to go inside. Sometimes it looks more like a Zoom meeting. Sometimes it looks more like a video.
I hear you.
Sometimes it looks like just handing them materials.
Sure.
And they're carrying out the class. We do what we can depending on security level, situation, if there's illness spreading, if there's been a lot of violence recently. At MCI Norfolk, which is the men's prison, as you might be aware, there's the prison camp right now, so we were not able to hold a class there as we were supposed to because there's just too much going on there.
No, right.
But it actually started as just a book drive because their libraries are so horrendously understocked.
Yeah.
And there's so much evidence for the power that literacy has of reducing the effects on inmates' mental health.
Of course.
And then reducing recidivism. That's the big thing.
Yeah. So tell me, so did you actually do the book drive to start off? Is that?
Yes. So it was just supposed to be a book drive.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's huge, So
I currently have 130 plus books sitting in my basement that need a home. Getting there.
Yeah.
And so it started off as just a book drive, and I realized that just donating books wasn't enough. That in Massachusetts, I will give credit where credit is due, we actually have pretty good programs for education. With 76%, give or take, have their GED currently in the system.
Oh, really?
So it's higher than you would think. Yeah. It's definitely higher than other states, but the access to higher education isn't there. The access to career prospects isn't there. So that's something I really focused on, and the books that I have are all textbooks, career manuals, self-help books.
Self-help, those are my favorite.
Yes.
Those are the best. Those are inspirational.
Yes, a lot about emotion management, addiction management, all these things.
Any Glennon Doyle's in there? Untamed, or I'm just trying to think of like Brennan, you know.
Couldn't tell you. I have a lot of Jane Austen because I'm a Jane Austen fan.
I was thinking more along the self-help books, you know, like You Can Do It, or anyway, keep going. Yes. Jane Austen, I love that. Yes.
I love about all the books I've collected, they're all secondhand, so
Yeah.
I get that. A huge pillar of Girl Scouts is environmentally friendly. So
that
giving
is
books
really good.
a second chance at life, and also cheaper.
And you know what, it's so important though when you think about it, that people who are incarcerated, you know, a lot of times, particularly women, the circumstances that lead them to there are horrendous. A lot of times it's trauma, it's severe mental health, it's domestic violence. We know all of that. And then when people go back out into society, they're not armed with financial literacy. They don't have a lot of the confidence, you know, that can come from books and all of that. So it's really,
and that's exactly what leads them either committing the same crime or the worst crime as before, and leading right back into the system.
Right. Well, don't you feel, I mean, when we talk so much, you know, I do a lot about like substance misuse and all that, is just going back to the same group of people that they were associating with before, not having the confidence, a feeling of hopelessness, right? To say, okay, what's the use? Where am I going to go? I'm hopeless. I may as well go back and do the bad things I was doing before, right?
And that's another huge part of my project. So I went from the education side of things to how else can I help anybody that's recently
There's
released.
even more to this project, isn't there?
There
okay,
is.
keep going.
It's all about public outreach, talking to people like you, getting the word out that people deserve a second chance. And you're not helping yourself, you're not helping them, you're not helping our community by holding a bias against someone who made a mistake once. I think everyone deserves forgiveness, and I think everyone deserves an opportunity to make something of themselves and leave something behind they can be proud of. And if that means that when you were 18 and you got into drugs and you serve time, when you come out, I think that's an experience learned, experience gained.
Absolutely.
And if we can teach you some skills, and it can only make our community stronger.
Absolutely, absolutely. But one of the things that I had asked Abigail about when she was on too is just, were there moments along the way, have there been moments as you're working toward this when any kind of any obstacles that get in your way that you could share with, you know?
Imposter syndrome was a big one.
Okay.
I don't come from a background, no one in my family, sorry.
That's okay.
has really spent time in the system. It has not directly affected my life in any way, but it was still something that I was really passionate about. So just feeling like, what role do I have in this conversation, was a big one, because no one wants to hear from me about why prison education is important.
Hence the imposter, like, who am I to be?
Right.
Who am I to be doing?
Who am I to be doing this?
But who are you not to be doing? That's right.
To be talking to these people.
Yeah.
Other obstacles are straight up people just slamming a door in my face.
Yeah.
I got yelled at by a lot of prison superintendents because
Talk to me about that experience. Yeah.
Yes. So
I didn't know you had to go through that whole process. Tell us about that, because that rejection thing, that's tough.
Rejection is really tough. I was ready to give up about a week ago, actually, and I was
really?
like, what am I going to talk about with? And then I finally got an email back from the assistant superintendent at the women's prison in Foxborough, and I was like, okay, this is it. We can do this.
Oh, wow.
But I first wanted to work with juveniles. I actually got an in-person conversation with the director at a facility, and I don't want to call him out specifically, but he very much yelled me out of that room and did not want me in that space, did not want me in this industry, did not want anybody to tell him what he should be doing in his facility or how he should be improving.
Talk about ego. Wow.
Yeah.
You have to deal with that.
So that was about a year ago, and I was like, okay, sat down with my advisor, and we were like, what now? Are we going to give up? And I was like, absolutely not. So then I went to an even bigger horse, and I went to a men's prison, not just a juvenile center, but a men's prison.
I'm sure the reception there was,
way worse. I got yelled at. I have people from my project that got yelled at because, what are you doing calling? Do you know anybody here? What are you trying to do? there's a lot of suspicion around anyone trying to break into the sort of conversation around this whole topic,
Right.
because there's a lot of danger, right? You're the random person calling. What are their intentions? What's the danger here? So I really don't blame anybody that had a negative reaction to me first reaching out. And if anything, it's something I look back on. I'm like, yeah, I got through that.
You got through it. But you know what I always get? Sometimes it's how people, react when someone yells or is disrespectful, but giving you the chance to explain and to build a trust and all that. But when they just start yelling and treat you like you're a piece of garbage, not that they did that. I'm not saying that, but
Kind
it's
of
just
they
that,
did.
it's that feeling,
Right.
And it's like you have this enthusiastic, idealistic. Yeah. People forgetting we have an obligation to nurture that, right? Not to squelch it, and
Right.
especially in the area of prison reform, and
And for a lot of this project, if I say the word Girl Scouts, people go, okay, I'll listen. But sometimes it's Girl Scouts. Like, you
Cookies?
just sell cookies,
I know,
right? It's
right.
not cookie season.
That's right.
But we do so much more.
And that was part of the message I wanted to get, not only to share your project, but to share that that Girl Scouts is such an important organization. But you said it can vary, right? You said that it depends on the troop that you get in, or
And it depends on the age group too.
Okay, talk
I think-
to us about
so
that.
Daisies, Brownies, Juniors, these are your young kids, elementary school. They're doing badges about first aid and
Yeah.
music and arts and maybe STEM. And it's introducing girls to a lot of different areas that maybe my mother or my grandmother weren't able to be introduced to.
Right.
And then you get to my age and maybe it's just being with a group of girls. And a lot of times we hang out. We went to a rage room. We went to a paint night.
So it's a huge
in
social
Foxborough.
thing, right?
And
Yeah.
it turns into a social thing, and I think that it helped me get through high school, which was a very tough time for me.
Would you
mentally.
mind, I mean, since we're talking kind of
Yes.
about tough times and all of that, because I know for me, high school was terrible. It was just the worst thing, and I thought I was alone in that. Can you speak a little bit about what your experience was like there? Because I think that can help, knowing that
Yes.
where you are now and where you were then.
So I spent 3 years at Franklin High School,
Mm-hmm.
and then my senior year, I did make the decision to go to online high school for my mental health. The 3 years that I was there, I mean, one of them was COVID, but the 3 years that I was there, I had the great friends, and then I had people that really, I don't want to say the word bully, but it was slightly bullying.
Yeah.
I wasn't welcome in a lot of classrooms. I wasn't welcome in a lot of friend groups. And part of that is because I've always been very vocal about what I see wrong in a situation.
Uh-huh.
So if something needed changing, I called it out. And it got me into some hot water. But there was one specific situation that I don't feel, again, that I need to call people out.
Right.
But it really hurt people's perception of me as a person. And I think leaving and just deciding that I didn't have to follow the status quo anymore was really important for my mental health, and also gave me the mental space to pursue my project.
Yeah.
Instead of coming home and spending all this time trying to deal with the emotionally charged things that happened during the day,
Yeah.
I sat down and go, what else in the community can I turn my energy
Yeah.
to?
And then so from there, so how was that experience doing online? You still felt you got a good education from it, or was it just more that you had the space to do the project and you didn't worry as much about the academics?
So I was in all AP classes. I definitely did focus on academics.
Yes. Okay. Of course you were.
And I am headed to Boston University next year.
Yes.
So
What a great institution.
yes, I'm very excited. It got me where I needed to go.
Yeah.
I think there were certain experiences that I got at Franklin that I did not get. I'm not as
Of
close
course.
to my teachers.
Yeah.
The exams were definitely not as hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall I probably could have gotten a better education just on paper from another year at Franklin, but for me that was the right choice. And that was the
Can
right
you
path.
help me with something, because in terms of, I always look at, we really have to focus on, as educators, as much on mental health as on grades and curriculum. I think we have to teach the whole child. I'm just curious, without mentioning names or anything, were there people teachers along who got it, who saw that situation that you could trust, or
My sophomore English teacher or my freshman English teacher, she left my sophomore year. She was the person that got me through Franklin.
See, having one person
supported
like that.
me through the worst of my mental health crisis.
Yeah.
And she left Franklin, similar situation, because it was not the right fit for her as a person anymore.
Yeah.
And that kind of was like, if she can do it, I can do it.
There you go.
And that's what helped me walk away.
And your parents were supportive of that, right?
They were.
They just said, I'm going to look out. I trust Elizabeth. I think she knows what's best for her. And they saw you probably agonizing, going through a lot of pain, right?
Right. And at some point, like you said, you have to teach to the whole student.
Yeah.
And I think online school does do that.
Yeah.
It's very helpful for people that have more needs, maybe need more downtime, maybe need time. If you have anxiety, it certainly is helpful for that. But then also, it did have a very rigorous course load.
Sure.
I took AP Statistics, I took AP English Literature, I took all these classes that I still got a well-rounded education while not harming my mental health.
Did you feel, here's my other question, because a recent survey at Franklin High School, and it's true, probably many high schools, the kids said the worst thing was academic pressure and extracurriculars, that everyone felt that they had to cram their resume with tons and tons of extracurricular, and if they didn't take 85 million AP courses, they weren't going to get into the college. How much pressure did you feel, or do you think we need to look out for there?
I do. I think the academic pressure and the pressure to compete with your fellow students is really big at Franklin. And when I was there as part of a Take Action project for Girl Scouts, I tried to press the former principal, Mr. Hanna, to switch to the Latin honor system instead of the class rank system.
Yeah.
Because there's so much evidence for that being so much
healthier
for students.
You were so correct, and you advocated for that.
I did advocate for that.
Is that part of your being getting your opinion out there?
Yes. I advocated to him for a lot of things.
Oh, would you mind just telling me a couple of other? I mean, that's so important. That class rank thing is disastrous. Were there other things you kind of advocated for?
I don't know if we want to talk about.
Okay,
but there's a pandemic of sexual assault at Franklin High School.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And the admin does not handle it well. The admin does not support the female students. The admin does not protect its students. The two main people that are the problem have since been removed from the school for different reasons than this, but that's a huge problem. I know at least 10 girls.
Wow.
4 of which were from the same guy, and he graduated from the school.
Wow. Wow. Is there do you find sort of an entitlement among some of these kids that are doing that? Is there an aggressive entitlement that no one can?
I think it's part of the sports culture.
I was going to ask you that.
It's part of the ego, the sports culture, the privilege that comes from living in a wealthy town, and also the knowledge that admin doesn't do anything. That no one's going to do anything to me. No one's going to say anything.
Wow.
I know a girl that tried to tell her story last year, and she was forced out of the school.
Wow.
That
good for you, but
and that's what I got the most.
Oh my goodness!
That's why I got pushed out of the school, because I was very vocal about this issue, and I called out teachers that weren't doing enough, and I called out admin that were not doing enough.
Wow. I'm very proud of you, I have to say. It's truly, because this is so important for young people to have a voice, to be an advocate. This is incredible. So I don't know, I can't say anything else without giving you a fat head, saying how inspirational you are, Is there anything else before we end? I don't want to keep you because you have a busy life out there, but that you want to share about the work that you've been doing, anything else about Girl Scouts? Are you encouraging people that this is a good place to be, especially for that social connection?
I think if you have an experience like I did, where maybe you have 1 or 2 close friends in school, and it's really hard to feel like you're a part of a big group, Girl Scouts is a really safe place to be, where they are welcoming of everyone. 4 years ago, so right at the start of my high school, the board of National Girl Scouts made the decision that they would not question the gender of any scout wishing to join. And that made me so happy.
Yes, good for you.
So it really is a safe place for everyone to come and find camaraderie, find friendship, and find people to give you the strength to do things that you're passionate about.
And look where you are. This is incredible. No, so I have to thank you so much. This was great. You didn't disappoint me in any way. You did great. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want to thank Chris Flynn, our producer, and Franklin Cable TV for allowing this Citizen Media Center to happen. So thank you again.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.